Good Friday afternoon, evening, Saturday morning, maybe. Why would anybody want to listen to us on a Saturday morning? We are not cartoons, are we? We're back after a month in the Maldives, right? We just got fed up and it's like, you know what? We're going to the Maldives for a month.
Exactly. We didn't want to make people jealous, so we didn't stream from there.
Yeah, and we didn't tell people that no, that's not what we did. I've been off the rails since about Mother's Day, so the first weekend in May. Long story short, my mother passed away about a week and a half ago, and it's been just dealing with that. So she had a pretty quick thing happen, and after about 3 weeks, she was gone. So now we're back. Okay, I promise I won't cry. Okay, I can't promise that. I have tissue. But that's not why we're here today. So we're back. We're sort of back on the regular rhythm of things. By the way, Victor, I didn't tell you. We already have a podcast recorded for next week. I'm going to try my best to have it out Wednesday. It might not happen. We'll just see.
Life gets in the way, I know.
Life gets in the way every once in a while, and or if I get it done, it may not be perfect, and that's okay too. So we'll see. But
knowing you, I suspect that you would rather not publish it in that case than not being perfect.
That is, well, not perfect, but complete. And that's
okay.
Just complete, because perfect, I've given up on perfect. By the way, if you don't know who we are, my name is Darren. This over here is Victor, and we're the co-host of a podcast that we were just talking about called DevOps Paradox. DevOps Paradox. It's been a while, hasn't it? And on Fridays, we do this live thing now that we're back in the groove. And let's see. Let's talk about... Oh, normally we have a drink. I have my drink. You probably have a drink.
Yeah, I have water only.
You have water. Yeah, we're in our classic red and white water bottles today. So I am out of practice. Wow. Okay. The podcast this week, we've been in a series about microservices, and this one this week was about testing microservices. And if you haven't listened to it yet and you're into microservices, go listen to it. There was a post in the Slack Workspace under the podcast channel. If you have any comments about it, you can go talk about it there. But we've got one more. So the one that we have recorded, not ready yet for next week, is also about microservices. We'll talk more about that towards the end. But microservices, plus or minus, good or bad? It depends.
Good if you know what you're doing and if you need them.
And bad if you think you know what you're doing.
And you don't need them.
And you don't need them. Sometimes a monolith isn't that bad.
Well, very often it's not that bad.
Does it make you money? Then it's good. Let's go ahead and get into the news this week. So since we've been out for about 3 to 4 weeks, I pulled back a couple of things that I thought were interesting. Well, let's get into this one that I did see yesterday. We've talked about Waypoint in the past, and normally I would have pushed this sort of towards the end, towards the tools section. But there was something here that made my head scratch, or made me scratch my head. I'm not sure which is correct.
Okay.
Their big call out here is they add significant new functionality, most notably mutable deployments, where a deployment updates an existing resource rather than creating something new. And the other status reports, which is good, right? So that's not the one I'm real concerned about. I'm thankful they've got better status reports, but it's this first one, mutable deployments. I'm okay with mutable deployments. I understand the whys of it, but this is 2021.
I mean, vast majority of deployments today are still mutable. I understand that there is a demand for that. It's just not from Hashi. I mean, whole differentiator, one of the biggest differentiators between, let's say, Terraform and others is because it was based on immutable ideas. This almost goes against Hashi principles.
It smelled a little weird to me. And I'm thinking about people that are running bare metal VMs. They were probably clamoring for this, and rightfully so. But if you're doing an in-place upgrade of a pod or in a running container, that doesn't make any sense to me. Whether you're running in a scheduled environment or not, it just doesn't make sense.
I haven't tried it yet, but judging by that example, that's not really mutable deployment. It's rather that they are making mutable manifests, which of course, because look at the image, right? Because there is no way that you can deploy Kubernetes pods in an immutable way. They are simply immutable by design. It's simply, it cannot be done. I mean, it can be done, but it would be very hard to do it. So I think that they're referring to manifests rather than real deployments.
Yeah. It says the core data model is now mutable aware, employing a new generation ID. Plugins can opt in to generating generation IDs. By default, Waypoint's going to generate a unique ID per operation.
Yeah. I think it's manifests.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. So I'll leave that for you to go and poke out again. Again, the other part of it was status reports. Those are nice, right? That's. I mean, again, this is 0.4. This is the fourth release of this. If memory serves, it's been 0.1, 2, and 3, and 4. I think that's all it's been. So this is Hashi. We expect it to start a little slow, not in a bad way, but in a. So this is. I'm still looking forward to. I'm wondering what it's going to take for this to get to 1.0.
I mean, couple of years, or more,
potentially. But I'm thinking about the feature set more than the time frame. But a bunch of other little new features, some improvements. And I did see one thing that they were breaking changes. They removed Netlify because if you looked at the issue that's linked underneath this, it's like nobody's using it. That my word's not theirs. So they basically abandoned that. So if you've been playing with Waypoint, upgrade.
But going back to your question, when it will reach release 1?
Yeah.
You know that Terraform is still 0 point something.
15 now, I think, isn't it? 15 or 16?
I'm not sure. Something like that, but it's not 1.
Yeah. And it's running quite well.
It's beyond quite well.
Yep. Okay, so this came out a couple of weeks ago, and you and I, when I was out, I shipped this over to you. I don't know if you've even looked at it yet or not, but AWS announced App Runner. And basically, this is AWS's current. How many different ways can you run an image into a container inside of AWS? Let me count the ways.
I have
17
figure 17.
Yeah, 17. I think. I don't know. I saw somebody actually joking about 17, and they actually documented it. I can't remember where I saw that. But this is yet a new way of doing it. But this is more Google Cloud Runish than we've seen to this date.
Except that it doesn't scale to 0.
Does GCR scale to 0 now?
Always.
It always did?
Always did. It's Knative.
Okay. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Okay, I'm wrong. Anyway, give it an image, give it source code. This is the Heroku model. This is if you were running a Docker image in Heroku and you just gave it, if you're running an application in Heroku and you just gave it the source code, this is what this is.
That sounds very similar to Copilot.
Well, you can use Copilot to drive the use for App Runner. They did basically a coordinated release, announcement and release of Copilot, talking about App Runner, and everything came out all at once on the 18th of May.
Cool. I need to go deeper into it because I haven't tried it yet, but I still cannot comprehend the difference between that and Copilot before.
The biggest, here's the biggest thing is it's got built-in monitoring, much like GCR does, so it will handle all the auto-scaling for you.
Amigo. Okay. Right. That's cool. That's really cool.
So right here, load balances traffic, scales on demand, and monitors application health. That's
Nice.
this is the opinionation of App Runner, is basically these last three in this sentence. So
Okay.
that's okay. Now currently it's public only. And on their roadmap, I did take a look at the roadmap. It's on GitHub. They are moving it to where it will be available eventually within a private VPC. So for
Nice.
now, if you've got a publicly facing app, this is probably okay for you. They also were going to add in the typical things of the peering back to S3 and the private peering over to the database. You know, that typical, what's it called? Endpoints. It's endpoints,
Yeah.
right? So where you can come across. So those aren't there yet, but that is coming according to the roadmap. So again, you know, AWS is going to do what AWS does, which is fine, right? What you can't say is they don't give you options.
Yeah.
You can say they're giving you too many options.
That's my problem. Kind of, it's very hard to decide. If they're evolving and they're bringing new things, and that's all great. But maybe it's time for AWS to retire something as well, and maybe because too many options are also dangerous from different perspectives, right? And yep, I don't know. Should they choose now that? Should they choose Lightsail? Should they choose Copilot with ECS, or maybe with EKS, or whichever other 13 options they have for similar objectives, let's say. So yeah, great. I like that they're doing this. I mean, auto-scaling was something badly needed for those cases, and I think that none of the other services, Lightsail doesn't have auto-scaling. ECS containers directly in ECS Copilot, what's not also not auto-scaling. So this is auto-scaling, great. But then why do I need the other ones? Who doesn't need auto-scaling?
Most people probably want it.
I mean, or let's rephrase.
Yeah.
The target base of people, I want image running in somewhere, and don't ask me questions about it. Those are not people that run monolithic legacy, I have a state stored somewhere type of applications, right? Vast majority of the user base will likely use this for stateless applications. I can bet on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is perfect for, you've got a public API. Done. Now, the twist here is, with the recent announcements from GCR to where they do multi-region, am I saying that correct? It was multi-region, right?
Yeah.
They recently did multi-region with the global load balancer, so you just deploy your code once and it's available everywhere. You can configure it to make it available everywhere. App Runner doesn't have that yet. I imagine they'll add that at some point, because why not? You've got the infrastructure for it.
Yeah.
I still think, now here's where App Runner does win for me. With the existence of App Runner, if I'm living in an AWS world, this actually pushes for me EKS down the stack, down the selection stack. Because if I just have a single app, again, I haven't dug into it, like GCR gives us the ability to do service discovery. Right? That's really simple. I don't think App Runner gives us to service discovery yet. It wouldn't surprise me if it shows up.
Phil.
So if ignoring the implementation details under the hood, once, and I'm saying once, I don't have any inside information, but just looking at the roadmaps, once App Runner is feature parity with GCR today, multi-region, whatever the other things I was just talking about, right? I don't really care which one it is. Now, here's the twist currently with App Runner, and I can't remember GCR. App Runner requires you either use ECR or ECR public for your image story. If you're going to bake an image, you have to use their registry, which sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that.
Makes business sense for AWS, but yes, yeah, why not?
Well, the reason why is they're not having to ingress stuff in, or having to pull the images in.
Yeah.
So, okay. Anyway, App Runner.
Now, there is one important thing here. and if I'm not mistaken, you can run any image.
Correct.
So that makes it kind of like, if I would ignore that it doesn't scale to 0, that makes it more appealing to me than the combination of me running my images as lambdas, which was the option also introduced not long ago, because those images were painful, kind of like I had to extend AWS images, which were massively huge, just so that I can add my binary to them. The ability to run any image as application in a simple way is a killer. That's what I want, and that's what this gives me, except that it doesn't scale to 0. That's the only. It probably will.
Yeah, and I haven't, and it might scale to 0. I haven't checked.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It doesn't. You did look? Okay.
Yeah.
If you give it just your source code, like if you don't bake an image and you're just going to give it source code, today there are only 2 that it handles. Think build packs. It's not. I don't think they're using build packs, but think build pack for a moment. They've only got JavaScript and Python, so no other direct language support today. But if you're willing to bake an image and put it in their registry, you can run any image you want.
Exactly.
So I would not be surprised within 12 months to see this feature parity with GCR. Again, not implementation parity, but feature parity.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing again is getting to 0 if that's possible, because this is really more aimed towards smaller businesses than big ones.
Yeah.
Not that big ones will not use it, but
well, in its current state, it's aimed at smaller, discrete workloads and not a meshed type microservice workload.
Yep.
Okay. We've been talking about Google a lot. This came out yesterday. The Open Source Insights Project. This was pretty interesting. I was talking to somebody that I work with, and he'd already seen it. But it gives you the ability to see what the dependency tree is. I can't remember, this cloud view, if you will. And that's actually hosted at, if you go all the way down, there's this deps.dev. In fact, let me go ahead and open this up. And to do this, let me see here. There we go. So you can search for any open source packages. I picked Argo. Are you okay if I pick Argo real quick? You're muted.
Yes.
And if I search for Argo, I'm going to go to Argo Proj Argo.
Yep, that's the one.
Just to do that for right now. And the highest tagged major version of this Go module is Argo v3, whatever. And let me get rid of the cookies thing here. So it's telling me about security advisories, plus or minus. It just tells me licensing and all the dependency licensing. So if you're in a company that is license averse, let's say you're licensed, you don't want any MPL in your code that you're running because the code you're producing is being consumed by the public, or maybe you're packaging it in, lawyers. I don't know lawyers, right? It's those kinds of things. Dependencies, whether direct or indirect, and then dependence. Now this one has no direct dependence because it is. So you can take a look at dependencies, and this gives you a list, but if you click on graph, then you get this cool little cloud, or not so cool little cloud, as the case may be, for Argo. It keeps growing. And then the dependence, this one has no dependence. And then comparisons, it talks about different licenses when it was comparing the previous against the current. I don't remember if this one shows. No, it doesn't. There was a different, I can't remember what I was looking at earlier. There was something. Let me search for somebody else here real quick. I did a search for, I did Commons IO. Was it this one? Oh no, I had to do it this way. The search here leaves a lot to be desired. Oh, here, let me, how did I do this? I did it.
So you're saying that the Google made this, right?
Yes.
So Google is not so proficient with search, you're saying?
You said it, I didn't. Here, let's do Prometheus Common. We'll do this one. So no advisories. dependencies and dependents. I wanted to show dependents, what that looked like. So dependencies, that's what we were talking about. Here's the dependencies on Prometheus. Here's the cool little graph. This one's actually smaller, thankfully. And you can zoom in on it. I forgot about that. So if you want to get really crazy with it. But here's the dependence. So this tells me who is using this package as well. Just because. And then licensing, whatever. Again, so new tool from Google. Again, it was just announced yesterday, I think. Yes, yesterday.
This is a type of tool that might make enterprises go insane, crazy, because once you realize that basically you cannot use open source because of the licenses, and basically it's that bad. You almost certainly cannot use open source if you have any issue in any license type, right? Because when you go down the tree, and that's one of the mistakes, right? People go and say, "Hey, Argo, what is the license type? This. Okay, so I can use it or I cannot use it." But no, you need to go through all the dependencies. Basically, it doesn't matter that Argo has this license type. You need to consider all the dependencies if you have problem with certain licenses. And you will quickly come to a conclusion that there is almost no project you can use. And that means not only open source, but also commercial. Because if you take any commercial product and you check the license, you say, fine. But every single commercial product depends on open source. Every single one. There is no way that your developers of that product did not use an JavaScript library or Go dependency or something. And there is no way that one of them is not open source. And then starts the dependency madness. So licenses means that you should shut down your business.
Disclaimer, we are not lawyers. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Anyway, the good thing about this is that you're touching on the point that is a really hot topic right now, and it's the supply chain. Supply chain's a big deal right now, meaning what's my dependencies? Where am I getting them from?
Oh, yeah.
So that's something we need to talk about on the podcast, is supply chain.
We should.
But not today. Let's get to one of the tools I saw this week. Have you seen this one yet?
No. What is it?
Okay, Minesweeper. So do you know what Minesweeper is? You remember the game on Windows to where you'd flip and hit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's what they were trying to do here, but I don't know. So basically, you install Minesweeper into your cluster, and then basically scans your images. This is, I can't remember the other tools that we've seen that does basically the same thing. Scans images, whatever, scans the cluster, looking for things, reporting on security, compliance. It talks about gatekeeper. I guess I'm thinking about OPA. We have talked about that. They're difficult to use. So Minesweeper is a pre-made library of pre-made policies and a simple GUI and acceptance management interface that makes compliant easy and manageable. So that's what it is.
Nice, except that why is it called M9 Sweeper?
Well, what's funny is it's M9 Sweeper, but the URL, if you notice, is Minesweeper. It's not.
If it's M9R, it would make perfect sense because there are 9 letters between M and R. Count it if you don't believe me. So M9R would make sense. M9 Sweeper makes no sense.
Oh.
Sorry, guys.
So anyway, it's basically, I'm not going to say it's a competitor to Gatekeeper, but it seems to be the easy button is what I'm going to call it. They don't use that phrasing, but which Gatekeeper is not the easiest of things to set up and use.
No, it's hell on earth.
Because that's the Rego stuff, right? if I remember right. Is that Rego?
Because it's complicated. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
remember seeing, let me go back to the home. There was a testimony here or here. I founded Minesweeper because I wanted to make sure nobody would ever need to write Rego code again.
I second that. I admire that statement and I fully agree with it.
Jason?
I'm not sure whether it's me or you're frozen. Okay. I think it's Darren's internet got the best of him. Is it me? Is it you? Nobody knows. He put me. I don't have a link to the news. Let me find the link to the news. How can I do this? Okay, I'll continue the news. I did not even read the news in advance, so let me see what else is there. Okay. Okay, let's talk about, while waiting for Darin, the videos. 2 videos published last week, last 2 videos that was published on the DevOps Toolkit channel. One about Service Mesh. If you're interested to understand how Service Mesh works, that's the one. And another one about comparison between Tekton and Argo workflows, which I'm not going to reveal what's the result. There's Darin.
Sorry.
I was lost without you.
I've been gone for a month and my internet, as soon as I get back, it doesn't work. So
if you don't use it, it goes away.
I guess so. Man. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. That was on me. So add to stream. Okay, so we finished up Minesweeper. I'm assuming you were talking about, I heard you talking about Argo. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, just very quick about the videos.
Yeah. So there's your Argo one. I haven't watched this yet, so I'll do that not this weekend. And Service Mesh. What was your... We haven't talked about this. Why did you go down this, what is a Service Mesh path?
Because literally every single video I'm publishing for a while now comes as a request through one of the comments. And that was one of the requests, or more than one request. And also there is another reason actually, is that now I'm splitting, since there are 2 videos a week. One is a technical review / demo, and another one is about something more on a conceptual basis, right? Like most likely candidate for next Monday will be high availability.
Oh, okay. So how do we talk about this? How can I best say this? Yeah, no. I'm just trying to think, how do we... I want to talk about a subject, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to say it without causing problems.
Okay, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know what it is.
I'm trying to get it. I had it in my head and I just lost it. My short-term memory is a little shot right now. Where was it? I lost it. It doesn't matter. So, we've already gone through all the news that we thought was news, that I thought was news. Let's call it what it is right now. I wanted to check. I'm looking at one note here real quick. Nope, that doesn't help me any. I was trying to trigger back what I was just thinking about. Let's go back to microservices for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
The last 2 podcast episodes were about testing microservices and why do we want microservices or something like that. Oh, that was the first one. And we went deeper on that, but I want to go a little bit deeper on this week's about testing. I keep talking with people that just want to test their microservice. They want to be able to load up their whole thing on using Docker Compose on their machine.
Whole system.
The whole system.
And that's a startup with three people, bro.
Yeah.
If it's a startup with 3 people, then you probably did not generate enough stuff so it can run on your laptop, yes. Anything beyond that, it cannot run on a laptop.
But now with the existence... It shouldn't. But now with the existence of what GCR can give us, and probably at some point mid-future, why do you even care anymore? Why does it matter?
But it's, assuming that by microservices we mean independently deployable applications, right? And you're working on one of them and not 5 of them at the same time. And I'm making now a lot of assumptions, but for now, if that's the assumption, then, hey, test your microservice running on your laptop against your production or your staging. You have those. Just connect it to your staging or production. Preferably production, but if you didn't figure out how not to mess up with production data, right, then staging. And that's about it. That's all there is to it. Just connect it to staging.
You would think it would be that simple. But people
Is it
make it
not?
hard. Well, it should be. It should be. But you set it up. It's like you're only working on 1 and not 5 at the same time. Well, I see people working on 5 at the same time.
Yes. No, that's why I put kind of guardrails before my answer. Kind of, if you're working on 1 and that's independently deployable, then it's as easy as that. Now, if you're working on many of them, then yes, you need to create an environment where you're going to deploy them. Whether that environment is your laptop, namespace in your Kubernetes cluster, or something else, that's a separate one. But just get a namespace in Kubernetes. Your username. Deploy there. The problems we are getting, usually the issue is, hey, I cannot give everybody a namespace in Kubernetes because if they're going to deploy everything they need, that's massive. Fair enough. Fair enough. But then that means that if it's massive for namespace, it's massive for your laptop as well. And then we're getting back to that the only option is staging.
Yeah.
It's kind of chicken and egg. It's too big to run on a laptop, yes or no? If it's no, then yeah, run it on your laptop or in a namespace. If it's too big, then going back, you need staging. And you need to coordinate it now between hundreds of people who is going to deploy and what. That's the price of having a massive system that is coupled.
That is coupled? That should be decoupled? Or that is decoupled?
No,
that should be coupled?
That is coupled, that should be decoupled. I mean, if you need literally the whole system. I mean, let's face it, if you talk about enterprises, banks, insurances, if you're talking about whole system that is coupled, that you need everything, that's always massive. That's never kind of like 8 gigs of RAM and go. It's never that small.
Why do we keep having this conversation?
I don't know.
Well, people, number one, don't listen to us all the time. So if you're listening or watching right now, tell your friends. Just because this is a repeating conversation. In fact, I had this about 2 weeks ago with a friend of mine, and the variation of this was, it wasn't so much microservices, but it's like, yeah, he's like, we're all in on AWS. He says, I just recently took over as a VP of engineering, and everybody that works here, they just want to point and click inside consoles. They don't want to automate anything. I went, oh, really? And why is that? They said, it's too hard and they don't want to write code.
Hey, and I made such decisions quite a few times. My question is, why not just leave it be? Why are you even trying? Why don't you focus your energy on something where return of investment is going to be bigger? So you have a system that was written 20 years ago, that's okay. We all have it. And it works however it works. And it has processes, whichever processes it has. And it's not perfect, and that's okay. Now, why are you trying to invest money to improve that? Yeah. That's my question. Instead of just invest money to improve what's coming next.
And that's the problem. They're wanting to invest the money, but the people doing the work don't want to change how they're working. They want to keep doing what they've been doing for 15 years on all the new stuff.
And then we have a problem. Then, because it's perfectly legit to have a legacy system that is not behaving as it should be behaving. That's perfectly normal. There is nothing wrong with that. We all have it. What is not perfectly normal is to live in 2021 and go and work in a way that is more than 10 years old. That's not normal.
It should not be normal. Let's put it that way.
Now, and here's the cause of those problems, and where many CEOs, CTOs, decision makers are making mistakes. They're trying to find a solution, a process, a tool, whatever that will work for all their whole system, and that's a mistake, right? Because then you need to go for the lowest possible denominator. Then you need to make new stuff work as the old stuff, because old stuff cannot be made to work as the new stuff. So basically, if old stuff cannot be like new stuff, then the only option is for new stuff to be as the old stuff, and that means that you will never have new stuff. That is a problem. It's completely wrong to say, hey, let's pick any subject. Doesn't matter whether it's CI/CD, whether it's a platform where you're deploying stuff and things like that. It doesn't have to be a one.
It does not have to be one. Now,
this
is where I'm trying to get to. It doesn't have to be one, but it would be nice to have one umbrella that the multiples exist under. So let's use a deploy tool, right? I've got a deploy tool. I've got a legacy thing that is maybe using Urban Code Deploy. That's an old school tool. And I'm still going out to WebSphere on some sort of big iron from IBM.
Yeah.
Leave it. But don't call Urban Code directly. Create a wrapper around Urban Code, so that way now you can slot in, maybe you have another one that's a little bit older, maybe you are using Jenkins to deploy a WAR file to some Tomcat servers, right? Again, variation of a theme from Urban Code, right? They didn't want to pay for more Urban Code, so they put Jenkins in to take care of those couple of things. Don't call Jenkins directly. Call that wrapper that wraps now both Jenkins and Urban Code.
Yeah.
Now we're modern. Whatever modern may be. Maybe it's Waypoint. Maybe it's just kubectl. But when you step back and look at it, what am I deploying to? What is my deploy target? My deploy target is a mainframe. WebSphere on a mainframe. My deploy target is Tomcat running on some sort of Linux instance. My deploy target is GCR. I don't care about all the other details. I care about what the deploy target is and what tooling do I have available to deploy to that. But the bottom line is there's a deploy function that is aware of where it's going, and it picks the correct tool, whether either by declaration or by inference, and then it just does the thing. The Heroku model, if you will, right? Here's my code, go run it. Based on the metadata we have about the application, it knows where to go run it.
You're describing Waypoint now.
To an extent, yes.
Yeah, I mean, conceptually, that's Waypoint, right? That's the goal of the Waypoint, yes. At least when deployments are concerned.
Yeah, in a deployment circumstance, it's correct. It's okay to have multiple tools. Now, this is the other argument I've had with other people, is, well, we only want to have one tool. And I've asked why. And they say to keep it simple. If I was to try to use UCD, Urban Code Deploy, to deploy to Kubernetes, but that makes zero sense. Now, I could, but why?
But that's where I disagree with many of them. Actually, objectively, I agree to keep it simple. I agree with keeping it simple. Where I don't agree is that not necessarily simple means one tool. Most of the time, one tool means complicated, because then you need to make that tool do the stuff both that it is designed to do and stuff that it is not designed to do.
Let's make this real simple and really concrete. Forget about tech for a minute. I have a Phillips head screwdriver, and it is built to take care of a number 2 Phillips head screw. It's the size of the head, right? That's a number 2 Phillips head. There's a number 1 and a number 2, and there's other sizes too. If all I have is a number 2 Phillips head screwdriver, I will be able to do number 2 Phillips head screws really easy. I might be able to get a number 1 in, maybe okay. A number 3, maybe not so much. Hammering a nail with my number 2 Phillips head screwdriver, I might be able to do it. I turn around, I hold it, and I use the head of the screwdriver, but it's not going to be efficient. But now I have to put in some plumbing. I'm not going to be able to use a Phillips head screwdriver to actually weld plumbing together. Not going to happen. Pick a reasonable tool for the job. I'm not saying the right tool. I'm saying a reasonable tool.
Exactly.
We've talked about these, I can't remember the phrasing for this. There is no such thing as a best practice. There are good practices.
That reminds me of, what was it, like 10 years ago? No, like when there was a massive number of cases where people were coding backend in Java, frontend in Java.
Yes.
That there was that massive number of frameworks that would basically allow you to write in Java, and then that framework would convert it to HTML, JavaScript, whatever. It did not end up being easier.
Mm-mm. Not at all. Why do we keep having this conversation?
Yeah.
I keep coming back to that. Why do we keep having these conversations? This has been solved. It's just that you're uninformed, which is most of the time what it is. You're so set in your ways, you're unwilling to listen to options, or you're under such pressure that you just have to ship that just get it done. This is a variation of what I've been going through for the past month. It's like, I'm out of control. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I step back and it's like, okay, what can I do? And I took one step at a time. I didn't try to boil the ocean. That's the other thing. People try to boil the ocean. It won't happen. I think Moz called it out right here. If the tool is hard to use, then it is part of the problem.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean that the tool can't be used easily. But the way that you were communicated how to use the tool, you were not enabled on it well enough to use it simply. Now, there are some tools that are near impossible to do easily until you've used them for about 10 years. By the way, VS Code is not one of those. Okay, enough of a rant on that. What else? What else is going on? Are you playing Minesweeper while we're?
Yeah, telepathically. I'm sweeping it right now.
Okay. We're doing the little check boxes and getting the numbers and. Okay. Anything else today?
No, nothing.
So, like I said,
I'm unemployed. That's a new thing.
let's not talk specifically about that, but let's talk about it. So currently you are, can we say you're looking for a new gig? Is that okay to say? All right.
Yeah, I'm unemployed and I'm weighing my options.
Weighing your options. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So wait, the podcast that should come out on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, is What Are the Problems with Microservices? And we get pretty deep into that. Because if you listen to the first one in the series, which was 108, we started going down some of the problems there. And it's hard to not talk about the problems of microservices. Because as many things as they solve, they probably make many more things harder. So where's your tweet? Actually, I'm going to pull your tweet up. The one you made today. Can I share? Can I show that? Are you okay with that?
You should never ask whether you can share a public tweet. It wouldn't be public if it's not shareable, right?
I know, but I'm trying to be nice. I have become a lot more empathetic over the past few weeks. You should probably pin this one. Here, let me go and share this here. So this is your tweet right now. Whoops, wrong screen again. Okay, here, I'll do this. This says it all, right?
Yeah. It's kind of just checking what's out there, right? Instead of me reaching to people I know. Just actually, I got like, I don't know, like that was like 4 hours ago. I think that I got like 50 private messages so far. So
Oh, good.
I have now a problem of having too many options.
So here's what you should do. I don't want to give you a third video for next week, but you should do a video about, not a long one, 3 minutes, recapping what this tweet says.
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe not. That's okay. By the way, Chargeify, I see you show up everywhere on Twitter. If you ever start charging more than 2.9 plus 30 cents, I know where all the money is going. Okay. I'll unshare that. Okay. So, if you think of anything for Victor, actually, we could point people to this as Victor's looking for a job. We'll put that as a point right in this section here. I was trying to remember. Oh, it's somebody else. Never mind. Now I remember what it was. AI has been the rage for a while. And it seems like AI and ML is really becoming beyond insane. I use some AI writing tools. I will say that if I am expecting to hand over my DevOps processes to an AI, and if that's in any comparison to what the AI writing tools do, ain't no way.
Well, I know a lot of cases where actually I would.
It might work. It might work.
Because like, there are cases where you say, I don't know whether it will work, but it probably cannot get worse.
It won't be any worse. It should not be worse than a human. Now, what's going to be interesting is a lot of them I've been looking at were still GPT-2. Some are getting to 3 now. What will be interesting is once we get to GPT-4 and how they start building out models from that data set. That'll be interesting to watch. But
I mean, I have a beef with AIs. I think that it's a future. It's where we are going and all those things. But vast majority of the solutions that I see that have that two letters AI are just, it's not really it, right? It's not the AI. It's not even machine learning. You don't have a sample. It's becoming a trend marketing thing, right? Kind of, hey, our project now. Is that the next thing actually? Right? It was agile and it was DevOps and it was a bunch of stuff in between. And now everybody's going to put AI sticker, right?
It's really hard being a person that does marketing and is also technical and doesn't want to lie.
Yeah, say no more.
That's just what it is. Okay. If we don't have anything else, we might end up a little bit early today because I'm still getting back into the normal daily rhythms now. And I have a lot of work to do. You, on the other hand, you're going to the beach, right? You're going to Disney World? Is that what it is?
I still have work this time. I did not even... Normally, I would have, by the weekend comes, I would have some idea, commands, scripts for the videos for next week ready so that I can just do everything else, which is 80%. Now I have 0. So a lot of work pending.
That's fine. But go hang out with your daughter, go eat dinner.
Yeah, that's next on the list.
That's number one. Go hug your daughter. And okay, I won't mess up now. I'll be okay. If you're wondering why I'm talking like this and you weren't around at the beginning, go watch the beginning. First 2 or 3 minutes, you'll understand. Okay, so we should be back next week. Should be. Now, I'm going to caveat a couple things over the next couple of weeks. We may be out in 2 Fridays from now. I haven't told you this yet. I might be going out of town, but I may still be able to squeeze this in for that. And just with stuff that's going on, we might have to shift some things around. So I like this time slot. Most people seem to show up during this time slot. We want to try to keep this time slot, but just be aware, probably through June, it could be a little bit fluid. Just, it's what it is right now. So, and then everybody goes on vacation in August, right? When do you leave for vacation? You're muted.
Yeah, in Spain it's August.
It's August, yeah.
And literally everybody kind of like,
Yeah.
hey, if you need to go and buy something that is not a huge supermarket, you cannot do it. For a month, country's closed.
I cannot relate. But I know it's true, but it doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't make.
But one of the major differences is because you guys don't have vacations. We do.
Right.
The major issue is that everybody decides to go to vacations, a month-long vacations at the same time. That's the major problem, instead of distributing it across the year.
How does it get really crazy when everybody's gone?
Yeah. Of course, big supermarkets are open, stuff like that. But let's say, a couple of years ago, I had to find a lawyer to do some things. No, I called them numbers. They're all out. Kind of like, go to vacation, and it makes, because after you reach a certain tipping point, it makes perfect sense. Because let's say that I'm a lawyer. Let's say that I have my own practice, right? Now, it doesn't make sense for me not to go to vacations in August, because if everybody else is on vacations, then that's the month I have no business, except Victor, kind of like looking for a lawyer, being the only person in Spain looking, right? So it's that thing about, that's when you have the least amount of business, because everybody else is doing the same thing.
Yep. So anyway, June may be a little fluid. Just work with us, and by July we should be back in normal rhythms, thankfully. And let's call that good for the week. And we should see you next week. And if not, just watch on Thursday. I'm going to do better. So I post on LinkedIn, I post on Twitter. I'm going to try my best to post into the Hub channel. Hub, where did I put them a couple times before? Was it Hub or in podcast? I think it was Hub. When I announced this, I think it was Hub. I don't remember.
Probably.
Anyway, I'll make sure it's in I'll make sure it's in the Slack workspace too. Okay, everybody, have a great weekend. We will talk to you again next week.
Cheers.